brown eyes?
And your hair is long.
What happened to us?
Dude. I think we just became the directors of the Rendren domain.
I think we are. Alright. Well, since we're here, let's blend in.
Alright.
Let's do this. Alright, so, here we go. How did we come up with the title Rendren? The Rendren domain. Well, we are from... Wait, shit, we're not from Rendren anymore. We have to talk like directors.
Okay. Think like somebody that at first didn't know what the title of Rendren should be, so just put in a blank in the script.
Alright, okay. How did you come up with Rendren?
That's just it, I didn't. When I originally wrote the script, like, it just said insert title here.
Insert title here.
Yeah.
So, we had no idea what it was going to be called. Actually, the funny bit was, it was supposed to be called the Rendren domain, but due to a typo from our cast manager, Siaka Koti, whose channel is here, who plays Elspeth, it became the Rendren domain. So that is where we are from. They are from. They are from the Rendren domain. So that is how we came up with the title the Rendren domain. It's actually a typo. Character names. Now, this was a fun one, how we came up with character names.
Well, to be honest, the original script really did just have insert character name here, so all of us either put together names that we thought were quite creative, or we surfed the internet for names that sounded cool.
Like, I came up with Leona, which was my character, and it ended up fitting her quite well.
Yes, it did.
And it actually ended up fitting in the script quite well, so we kept her. So she is Leona Salazar, who is the cousin of Vigoth Salazar, and their family. And you came up with Salazar because of how?
Yes, because of the olden-time Portuguese Salazar family that put people in the dungeon for high tide and low tide so that they would drown to death.
I have quite the loving family.
Yes,
back
you
in
do.
Rendren. It's a hard life.
Vigoth residing in La Castillo de Salazar.
Oh, goodness. What a place to grow up, right?
Yes, it is.
And the fairies.
Well, I came up with Pearl, though not the actual pronunciation of the word Pearl, just P-E-R-L, just because I wanted to be creative, and it sounded like a cute name for a character with her personality.
And her last name is?
She actually never got a last name that was mentioned.
Really?
Yes.
She never had a last name.
Well, her last name isn't exactly mentioned in the series since her entire family's gone, and she was very, very young when she lost her entire family. But her last name was actually Arbol, hinting towards an affiliation with trees, because Pearl's family, as you can notice by Pearl's green design around her eye, her ancestors were actually woodland fairies, before the fairies had no use for their magical abilities and evolved without them.
And next would be...
I'd say Elspeth, which our cast manager actually decided the name for that character.
And it went along well with her nickname Elle, and it made it a lot easier for us to call her Elle, because she tends to get lost a lot.
As for the character Lucinda, I'm a fan of the movie The Knowing, and one of the characters in that movie was named Lucinda Embry, and I love the name Lucinda, so I figured I might as well give our main character that first name, and Embry ended up being our character Shade's last name.
Yes, that bastard. What? Oh, and Ladrick. Ladrick is a part of the half-fae breed, one of the last living half-fae breeds in the Fairy Ghettos. We came up with his name by surfing the internet?
Yes, I do believe so.
By surfing the internet, and his last name is?
Ladrick's last name, also not mentioned, is Lotion. it's similar to another character's name, which you will find out later. But yes, his last name is Lotion. Not Lucian, Lotion.
Lotion, so Ladrick Lotion. He... You have the weirdest names, don't you?
When you spell it differently, it doesn't sound like the actual stuff you put on your skin, lotion.
Yes, he's the last Fae. We're gonna get into this, but he actually looked a lot different than what we made him look like.
Yes, the Ladrick that you know in the series originally looked nothing like that whatsoever.
At all. Who else didn't we talk about?
Let's see, we have yet to talk about our lovely little Took.
Our little Took. Took.
His name was also a name that I believe that we found on the internet.
We thought it was fitting for him, and it really was really fitting for him.
Yes.
Well, once we got the character voice with it, and made him Took, and you saw the backstory to
Yes.
his parents and all that,
and Took's last name is also Leroux. I named him after the writer of The Phantom of the Opera, Gaston Leroux.
Back to the characters. Now we're just going to talk about the extras, because we covered all the mains, but,
one very important extra that we had in the series was...
the apothecary. We were actually really surprised when we heard Girls Rule 001's audition for her, because she fit it quite well, and we were very happy for that, because the apothecary is a big part of the series, even though she only shows up about, what would you say, twice?
Yeah.
Twice in the series. But she plays a really big role, and you shall see why. Coming soon. So, next extra would be the...
We could bring up Zex.
We have Zex and Diane, which is Lucy and Elspeth's parents. As you know, tragedy strikes Diane.
Yes. Diane, was slaughtered in the first episode of Rendren.
She magically doesn't have the cut in her neck.
Yes.
Due to this
traveling through dimensions does that to you.
Yes, she's now alive again. Diane, as you know, gave birth to Elle and Lucy. But Zex is also a big part, even though you only see him a few times up until now. You shall see him more.
Yes, you shall see him much more come the next couple of parts of Rendren.
And you will see where he comes in. He is a soldier.
In the Rendren army.
He left during the massacre. So if you guys go back to episode 1, you shall see that, but more of his backstory will come soon. Any more extras?
Well, we can bring up our soldiers.
All of our soldiers?
Yes, our soldiers. They carried out the murders of 90% of the Fae population in Rendren.
It started with a group of 3 who attacked the Fairy Ghetto.
Yes.
And from the Fairy Ghetto, it spread. And soon...
as Vygoth's influence spread across the kingdom of Rendren, more and more elves began to join the Rendren army, and so came the Great Massacre, where the Fae in all parts of Rendren, not just the northern Rendren ghettos, but all throughout Rendren, were killed.
And from that, we can talk about Vygoth's family. Now, as you may have seen, episode 2, I believe, we show pictures on the wall, which is my family, the Salazars, on one side, which is my mom, or Leo and his mother and father, and Vygoth's parents on the other side. And what you may not know is that they were originally very brown elves that started the kingdom of Rendren. As seen here. And by intermixing
with the very pale elves also inhabiting Rendren, the Salazar family eventually got significantly paler to their very white skin that you see currently in Rendren. As it goes from Darius the Great, who is known as the Great God King Darius, whose name was derived from Xerxes' father, who ruled the Persian Empire. And he went on, his descendants, Darius II, Darius III, and then Vigoth's father, who also had a brother. What you may not know is that Rendren, it is a patriarch society, so the son, like, men automatically have power in Rendren, and it's supposed to be the oldest son that takes the throne. However, Vigoth's father was actually the younger son, and Leona's father was the older son, but Leona's father decided to marry a pauper, and thus spawning Leona, so he was not allowed to rule Rendren, and so Vigoth's father took over, and Vigoth's father married Vixhana, who was a princess of a close kingdom, and so spawned Vigoth. And also the character of Selphie and her entire family. I actually came up with the name Selphie. It's a combination of the name Celine and Sophie, and I just changed the spelling and making it end with 2 E's just to dress it up, make her have a not too common name. As for Veronica, I actually just took a name from
Veronica.
No, Verotica.
Yeah, Veronica.
Well, I go to school with someone named Veronica, and according to people that I know, it's like it's a Madonna reference. So that's where her name came from, and Annette, that just sounded like kind of a kind, older woman's name. So that's how I picked the names for Selphie's entire family.
And Selphie and her mom are the Crows.
Yes.
And Annette, Veronica Crow.
Selphie and Annette are mother and daughter. Their last name is Penn. Veronica's last name is Crow.
Why do I care about those traitors? Oh, we didn't talk about Traitor Faye.
Our little traitor Faye, who still never got a name, but he himself also has a backstory.
Which you will see?
Yes. Come in the next few episodes, you will have his backstory explained, or you can just kind of take the spoiler on the website, located up here, website link. But where's the fun in spoiling the fun?
Right, yeah. Please no comments below saying yes, spoiling it for people. But you will see him one more time?
Yes, you shall see our traitor Faye one final time in the series.
And yes, he does not have a name.
Yes. Selphie and Annette both have the last name Penn, which is a play on the founder of the state of Pennsylvania, because his last name was Penn. So I pretty much took the last names of people throughout history to name our characters.
And also a character that you have seen, only through picture though, is Selphie's father.
Yes.
Who you will see again.
Yes.
So, if you guys can catch the part where you actually see him, pay attention.
Yes, because he will play an important role in upcoming episodes, and he himself will kind of add to the kind of sadness that the rest of the series has.
Set making. Now, this was really difficult to do. And this may not be how other collabs do it, but I actually sent Michaela grids of each lot and how they were going to be set up, and she would name where Vigo's castle would go and where the ghetto would go and all of that stuff, and she actually drew out every single house for me, and I pretty much had to, build it from the ground up and decorate it however I could, and we went back and forth for about a week.
Yes.
Just to do the ghetto. That wasn't even Vigo's castle. And to this day, Vigo's castle is still not completed because there's so much stuff that needs to go into it. But overall, that was the funnest part. You'll be seeing a lot more of Vigo's castle, and you'll be seeing a lot more of a set that you guys haven't seen yet, which is sort of like the outside, almost like a town square type place. You'll see what happens there. But yes, that was fun to do, the sets. Especially the fairy ghetto, because it was all broken down, and if you look closely, you'll see, like, cracks in the walls, and Took's parents' gravestones. Which originally were going to be tombstones, but we changed those into rocks, because we figured
that the elves wouldn't respect the dead fae enough to give them actual tombstones, so their gravestones are rocks.
Yes, and if you guys want to know, Diane is buried.
I'm buried underneath a tree that's located in the back part of Lucinda and Elspeth's house.
So if you see the willow tree, that is where she is. And I believe when the fae escaped, the wall that they jumped over is close to your burying spot.
Yes, and you will also see this burial spot in a couple of episodes of Rendren.
You will see why, and we'll go over that more in another segment.
Yes.
But, yes, the sets were the hardest, especially the town square. And I actually live in the town square. You will see where I live in a few more episodes.
Yes.
You'll see who else lives with me. And who else lives in town square? Oh, the apothecary. The apothecary shop is actually really hard to do. My game had a crashing fit because of all of the items that I had to put into the apothecary. But if you pay really close attention, you actually see her bed and her fireplace. I put everything in there that I possibly could to make it homey. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. I say the hardest set is the fairy ghetto, though. Just because of the massive amounts of things I put in it. What was your favorite lot?
I would have to say that my favorite lot is the forest that the group is escaping to in part 3.
That was actually a really tiny lot. So, to get creative on that one. But overall, yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. And you guys shall see more of the cool lots in upcoming episodes. The theme of the Rendren domain. Originally, it was going to be medieval fantasy-ish, but since we couldn't quite figure out what we wanted, some of us wanted modern, I wanted medieval, you wanted the fantasy aspect.
No, I was kind of the person stuck in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, so you were like...
Yeah, I was...
You were the fantasy medieval one, and I believe Siagakoti wanted modern. Mixed in. But, since we couldn't decide...
Then I just decided to mix the different ideas together, and we ended up with the Rendren that you see.
Which is quite a mix. You can tell the modern bits. I say the town square is pretty modernized. What else is modernized? The clothing. A lot of the clothing. Ladrick. You see here. Ladrick wears modern clothes. Took wears modern clothes. Lucy, Leona, I do. My character. Shade wears it. I would say the soldiers. All the soldiers wear modern clothing.
Yes.
And Vygoth is kind of in between. He's like fantasy modern, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially the clothing you're going to see him wearing in the next part. And we have a bunch of medieval things peppered in, like the apothecary shop,
Elspeth's outfit.
Yeah, and even Vygoth's castle.
Yep.
Vygoth's castle is medieval. It has medieval things to it. And the lighting. All of the lighting is candlelight. We haven't used any light bulbs, any of that stuff. What would you say fantasy? Fantasy would be the wings, fairies and elves.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite funny because it's almost like they're normal. It feels like it's modern to have the fairies and elves there because they act like normal people.
Yep.
Because we're not basing it off of
like the pixie-type fairies and such. Like, we made it so that it's, like, generations and generations down from those stereotypical fairies that have, like, the fairy dust and such, and the elves that are all
fly.
short. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually modern in a sense. how we have the Fae, because they can't use their wings, they can't fly, they don't have magical powers. But yeah, it molds somehow. we made it work somehow. So yeah, that's how we got the theme of the Rendren domain.
An aspect of the Rendren domain that I would say that people like the most is the fact that the music just flows perfectly in the different types of scenes, where I can't really exactly take credit for this, so credit for finding the music that is not copyrighted goes to our wonderful filmer, Morgana Le Fay.
I use a lot of Celtic music. If you see in the bar, the tavern, I actually use lute music that I got off YouTube. And, like, once again, somehow it really blends in. So you've heard a lute. You might be hearing harps.
And who knows, at some point in the series you might actually be hearing a kind of modernized flute.
There's a lot of instruments that we use in Rendren to make it realistic. Even you're going to be hearing singing, actual singing.
Yes.
And
we feel like the music that will be placed into the upcoming episodes will really set the scene and add feeling to.
That's what we mainly focus on. Is we really try to find music that goes with the scenes and gives you that feeling without having the use of a bunch of sound effects like I use in every single episode. Especially like Chuck's parent scene, where there wasn't a lot of sound effects because he was just kneeling in front of the graves. The music just set the tone for it and actually molded well with the backstory of the death. So it's a really big part of Rendren, and I'm really glad that I could find that type of music, and I'm glad that you guys like it, and I'm glad that you like it. Yes. The website I use is going to be up here, over here, so all of you can check that out, and yeah, that's my little bit on the music.
Now we move on to what is to come. As our viewers can pick up on, our episodes are going kind of slow, like nothing really big is happening in Rendren right now, but the first couple of episodes was just to explain where everyone has come from in the series, and also introduce the entire cast, which even right now we still have yet to introduce every character, so I can honestly say after part 5, heck, even part 5, the story is just going to take a complete turnaround, and it will become much more action-packed.
So yes, up until this point, it has focused on backstories and character development, and the big parts that we have shown you, like Faye's escaping and all of that stuff, is just building up for what's to come. But we have been focusing a lot on just showing you what has happened beforehand, so that you get the gist of how Rendren came to be the Rendren domain, where it feels like they're all trapped. And now, since they're free, a lot of stuff's gonna happen.
Yes, we hope that the next few episodes will really touch your emotions deep down, considering what's going to be happening.
A lot of stuff. So we hope that you guys will enjoy the next couple episodes, and
that you will not hate us after what happens.
Yep. But this is not your everyday cookie-cutter fairy tale, so it's to be expected.
Yes.
So, yeah, so guys, stay tuned for part 5 of the Rendren domain, and we hope you enjoy.
Alright, now, goodbye.
Alright. Would you like to say hi to your fans?
To my fans?
Yes.
Who?
We're recording right now.
We're recording for Sephiroth's Pro.
Oh, hi!
This is the cast manager, Shagakoti, also known as Elspeth.
Hi. Awkward to show. I was not expecting that, but hello, my friends of the Vegas Pro.